Guys, no big spinny intro on today's video. We're just gonna look at a handful of knives that I've picked out that are here, either mine or on loan, that are more flash than they are function. You guys know I love to talk about knives as tools and the functionality for EDC, but every once in a while, there's knives that come in that you just gotta appreciate for their flash and pop. So let's turn this around. We're gonna look at 5 of them from above. Guys, like I said in the intro, I've picked 5 knives that I think are more flash than function. We're gonna work our way from least functional to most functional all the way through the list. So we're gonna start with the Reich Hummingbird. So guys, the Reich Hummingbird is literally the smallest flipping knife you can find. This knife is the smallest. Now you can find smaller knives in this, like little keychain knives, but they're not good. This is an actual functional, full built, pocket clip included flipper knife that runs on bearings. It's done in titanium and Damascus steel, and it does run on bearings. It's got all the things you would expect in a folding knife, except it's only that big. So on the mat, you're looking at just full length of this is 4 inches. So a full 4-inch knife, but this has been done incredibly well. The flip side of the fact is it's incredibly well manufactured and engineered is it really doesn't fit a purpose. Now, I'm sure that some people would put this on a keychain and carry it in their wallet, and then they have a small little keychain knife. I'm of the opinion that this is not really something that you would use. I don't like most of those keychain knives. This is actually my daughter's. But this is not something that you're gonna grab and go like, oh, I've got some work to do. Let me go grab my Reich Hummingbird. It absolutely isn't. This was basically a way for a company to show off what they could do. And it's amazing that they were able to do this and minimize everything, make everything so small. I've had this knife apart. It's literally not even the size of my thumb. I've had this knife apart and put back together, and I can tell you structurally, it is built every bit as well as every other knife that Reich makes. It's got good lock bar tension. It's got good snappy action. It actually is functional if you need to, but like I said, it's just not a tool you're gonna go. And you can see they put as much work and detail into this tiny, tiny little knife as they do their larger knives. So there's a lot to be said for minimizing things. I'm a big fan of seeing things miniaturized because it shows what you can do. A lot of people are like, oh, show your engineering prowess by making these big things. Showing your engineering prowess can be much more effective by making something like this that is tiny. Minimizing and miniaturizing things that are, and still have them be functional, shows the fact that you've got really good engineering. So there's your first one, the Reich Hummingbird. Here's your next one. This is a Tough Thumbs full custom. Now, Jeff didn't even name these when he made these. And this is absolutely just knife art. But this is not a real functional tool, to tell you the truth. These are rare. There was only a handful of these. This belongs to Elliot Williamson. I borrowed this from him a long time ago for a video. It got put in a box somewhere and I completely forgot I had it. But yeah, this thing is absolutely just art, because just blade shape and everything on it is not something you're gonna go, grab and use. And it's really like obscenely thick behind the edge and just the angle of the blade. But when you look at the work that went into this, making this from scratch, and the only things that Jeff did not make were the screws, there's a lot to be said for that. And it has a definite artistic look to it. And I find it not necessarily attractive. I'm on the fence. Like, I find this interesting. And every time I look at it, I was like, it's fun. I don't necessarily say I find it attractive, but I also don't find it ugly. But you can see there's a lot of work that went into this, and you can see Jeff was just starting out and how he was getting to a point where he was making his own stuff. He had done pimping for a lot of years and then started making his own knives. And this is actually pretty well made. There's a lot of things. It is heavy. The thing about this that really is the thing that makes it the least functional, besides just the blade shape, this thing is massively heavy. There is no weight reduction in this. I have to say this is one of the heaviest knives I've felt in a long time. And a lot of it has to do with that completely copper backspacer that's in this thing. And it's not a thin piece. He even went as far as to rock pattern the inside of this. So all this been done by hand, full custom knife. Jeff is a great dude. You know, I started a GoFundMe for him last year when his shop got flooded. So it is unique. It's definitely interesting. It's something you're never going to see anywhere else. So there you go. By the way, I think Elliot is trying to sell this if anyone's interested. So let's move on to our next one. The Artisan Cutlery Great White. Now, this knife is a lot of fun. This is another guy that does really good custom work. This is a Mike Gavick, or Gavco Knives, as you know him. This is a collaboration with him and Artisan. And while this knife is still functional, you can use this knife. It's not the most functional knife. So we're worked our way up to a knife you could actually use, but I probably wouldn't. This thing is very artistic. It is a compound, like a recurve Tonto of sorts with a big harpoon blade and handle. The problem with this is never going to be a real functional day-to-day carry that you're going to use for doing a lot of work. This is something you pull out when you want to show off in front of other knife people. You're like, oh wow, that's really cool. This is a great knife, really good action. It does have a good blade. It is nice and sharp, but just the way it's designed is not a knife that's going to appeal to a lot of people to do a lot of work. Because while it is a good knife, it's very thin in the handle. It doesn't feel real secure. The blade is not a super functional blade. It is kind of functional. It's kind of along the lines of like my Grimsmo Norseman that I carry all the time with a recurve Tonto, just done in a different fashion. So could you carry this as a day-to-day user? Depending on the situation, yes. But there's just a lot more pop and flash here than there is full functionality. So it is a lot of fun. It's a great knife. It's incredibly well made. The action on it is great. Mike's designs are always interesting. I own a knife that is really similar to this, the Gavco Mako collab from Ferrum Forge and Gavco Knives. Has a very similar style to it, but with a much different edge grind. It's just a full flat ground straight edge. So yeah, you could carry this, but I just don't see it being a real good hard use knife. So there you go, your Artisan Cutlery Great White Gavco design. So these last two knives, it was hard to make this choice. I found that this knife, as much as I love it, is not as functional as the next one. This is the Ultramar Street Redencion. It is a Ramon Chavez design. And the only reason that this one is further down the list and not further up in functionality is because of the grind on it. So this knife has got a lot more pop to it than it does functionality. It's got this area that is really nice and sharp and nice and hollow, but it is kind of thick behind the edge still. And then this front. The reason it is less functional is where a lot of people would do a lot of cutting. Up here at this very forward edge, it's really thick. And it's pretty thick behind the edge everywhere. It does cut okay, but it's not a super functional knife. This is more along the lines, like I said, with that Gavco Great White by Artisan. This is one of those knives that is just something that's going to get people's attention. It is a very showy and garish, aggressive looking knife. The skull pocket clip, the huge jimping, the beefy look to it, the aggressive like drop point Tonto grind on this, where you have the like a traditional Tonto where it's, well, not necessarily a traditional Tonto, but you have this hollow and then this flat, this aggressive look to it. It is a very good looking knife. And yes, you absolutely can use it for work as long as you're wanting to cut in this area. Now, I will say that the 229, which is the full production, full size version of the Redencion. 228 was the mid-tech. The full production is the 229. It is much better in that. It is ground much thinner at the front and is much more functional. But for me, this is a knife that I only put in my pocket if I'm just going out, like if I'm going out with the wife and kid and I know I'm not going to be doing any cutting, this would go in my pocket just because I like the way it looks. It's little pocket jewelry. Guys like to accessorize as well. That looks good in your pocket. Some people don't like it. I love it. But there you go. The Redencion Street Ultramar Street by Ramon Chavez, done through Riat. This was one of his first production models. So let's go ahead and bring up the last one. I think you guys already know what it is. And it's the EMP Nimble. Out of all these knives, this is the one that is the most functional. And for most people, this is just, they're like, what are you talking about? That is all function. I think that they went a little bit too far with just a little bit of the fidgety factor on this, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I love the fidgety factor on this. There's so many different means of deployment on this. You got front flip, reverse flip. You got front flip, back flip, reverse flip with the aperture on here. There's just so many different ways to mess with this knife because everywhere you look, there's just another aperture. It's got a really attractive look to it. And the blade shape itself is functional. Where I get into the problems is there's this big gap here that is just really, really uncomfortable, and I just can't get past it. It makes this knife way less functional to me. But overall, it is a very well made, very well thought out knife. It's just not a knife for me, but yeah, you could get by with this day to day. I just find this to be a little more gimmicky and flashy for me as a knife than a tool. I think I was hoping the larger one would be better for me, but it really wasn't. My biggest gripe is this big wasted space here on this knife, which makes it just more form over function. It's more, this seems to me to be designed by somebody who had a specific look in mind and didn't think about ergos really as like knife in use. But if you do get used to it and you do like it, this is a very functional knife. You can do a lot of different things with it. Everything that we've talked about here has 100% been based on my opinion. So EMP Nimble, I think, is absolutely the most functional of the 5 knives that we had out, but still I think there's a little bit more form than function on this one. So that's it, guys. Let's flip this around and talk about it, some final thoughts, and then send you home. So there you go, guys. That was 5 knives that have either been knives that have been sent to me for keeps or knives that are on loan that really don't have as much functionality as other knives, but I really do love them for specific reasons, like this. The Artisan Great White. It's an attractive knife, but it's not something you're going to carry and go to grab to do work. So that's it on this one, guys. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down, but please try to tell me why. I can't change the content if you don't tell me what you don't like. If you want to support the channel, it's as simple as like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, hit the bell icon. Make sure if you do hit the bell icon that you've got it set to all, and make sure you've got notifications turned on your device. And talking about likes, that's the best thing you can do for any channel. It pushes us up the algorithm. The more people that like a video, the more that YouTube sees the value in it. Views are great, but likes actually help the algorithm and push you up. If you do want to support the channel financially, bunch of affiliate links over down below in the description. A lot of them are on Amazon, where those are just basically a door into my affiliate store. So if you're buying anything, I would appreciate it if you just use one of my affiliate links and then search the item you're looking for. Don't worry about what you actually clicked on. It absolutely supports the channel. It doesn't cost you anything at checkout. Coffee Brand Coffee. Right now, Jeremy's having some issues with being able to publicize his coffee company. So if you want to check out and support another YouTuber, great dude, good company, go check out Coffee Brand Coffee. You can use my affiliate link to save 5% and definitely help out the channel. The majority of that goes to Jeremy and Coffee Brand Coffee. So if you want to support the channel another way, I do have a membership down below. It's all tier-based. Everyone has access to the Gilded server, which is just like Discord. Baseline and premium tier members are automatically entered into the giveaways I do on the Gilded server, and the premium tier guys have access to a sharpening tutorial series here on YouTube behind that paywall. So with that being said, guys, that's it on this one. You know, keep it clean in the comment section. Not only does it make it easier for me to moderate the channel, it makes sure that your comments get seen by everyone. If you put up a comment and I don't get to it in time and it's questionable and it's dirty or it's mean, it gets erased and no one sees it. So that being said, keep it clean in the comment section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.